everyone, and welcome back to Miss Heather's Sunday School. Sorry I'm not in my classroom this week, but it was a nice day, so I thought I'd come record this outside. So last week, if you was with me, we learned about David and Jonathan becoming good friends. This week, we're learning about being afraid. And our scripture today comes from Exodus 14, 1 through 31. And I'm going to read the story that's a little bit easier for you guys, just in case it's harder to understand. But I encourage you to go read it out of your actual Bibles. So here's the story. God's people, the Israelites, lived in Egypt for a long time. They didn't like Egypt because they had to work as slaves and Pharaoh was so mean to them. Pharaoh was the king of Egypt. The people couldn't leave Egypt because Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. The people cried out to God for help, and he heard their cries. God was going to help them. How do you think God was going to help them? God sent Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt to a new land that God would give to them. Moses went to Pharaoh and told him that God wanted his people to leave Egypt. Pharaoh wouldn't let the Israelites go. He wanted to keep them as slaves. God did many miracles until Pharaoh finally let the people go. They quickly left Egypt with all their animals and everything they owned. I wonder if they took their guinea pigs too. After traveling for several days, they camped between some mountains with seas in front of them. There they waited for God to lead them on. Back in Egypt, Pharaoh changed his mind and shouted, "I want those slaves back. Let's go get them." Pharaoh and his army went on their chariots and horses to bring back the Israelites. When the Israelites looked up and saw Pharaoh and his army coming after them, they were terrified. They cried out to the Lord, "Help us, God." They didn't want to go back to Egypt. Would you? I wouldn't. Then they complained to Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us here in the desert to die? We wish we had stayed in Egypt." Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm. God will help you." God told Moses to raise up the stick he was carrying and stretch out his hands over the sea. Suddenly, God made a strong wind blow the sea into two sides. The sea rose up into two walls of water with a path between. Now the people could walk through the sea on a path of dry ground that God had made for them. As the Israelites walked safely through the sea on dry ground, Pharaoh's army followed them. Did you think they got through the parted seas? Find out. Just as God's people reached the other side, Moses again lifted his hand over the sea. This time, God stopped the wind. The water walls came crashing down over Pharaoh's army. But all of God's people were safe. God helped the Israelites when they were afraid. The people celebrated and thanked God for helping them when they were afraid. God can help us too when we're afraid. So, I'm going to ask you some questions just to see if you're paying attention. The first one, why were the Israelites afraid? Do you know it? Pharaoh and his army were coming to take them back to Egypt as slaves. Next question. What did the Israelites do when they saw Pharaoh and his army coming? Any guesses? They complained to Moses. They cried out for help. Next question. Why did the Israelites complain to Moses? You know this one? They thought they were stuck. They weren't trusting God to help them. They wanted to blame someone. Do you like to blame people and stuff? That's not very nice, is it? What did Moses tell the people? Don't be afraid. Stand firm. God will help you. How did God help the Israelites when they were afraid? God made a strong wind blow the sea back on two sides to make a path of dry ground through the sea. God stopped the wind so the sea crashed over Pharaoh's army. And the last question. You ready for this one? because this one's probably like really, really tough. I don't know if you can handle this one. Do you think you can get it? All right, here it is. Who can help you when you are afraid? Do you know that one? God can help us when we're afraid. So that's pretty cool, huh? I think since this week is Father's Day, I didn't have an actual Bible story craft. So I encourage you guys to make your dad's Father's Day cards. If you don't have a dad, that's okay. Make someone else in your life one. Like, make like your uncle one, your grandfather one. You know, someone that plays a dad role in your life. All right, that's all I got for this week. So, bye.